The Celtic Exchange, a fresh insight on Celtic Football Club.
Just when we thought we were heading for a disappointing draw on Saturday, LIEL Abada popped up to send Celtic Park sky high with a late winner which will be remembered for a long, long time by all who witnessed it. All in all, it could be a pivotal weekend in the title race as the result closed the gap at the top to just 2 points following Rangers' disaster in Dingwall. This is episode 55 of the Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino, and this week I'm joined by Mif and Sinky to cover all things Celtic. Mif, how did you enjoy that one on Saturday? Have you calmed down yet?
Hi Tino, hi Sinky, hello guys. No, really, I don't think. No, they're the type of weekends that you go to the football for, just the swing and the momentum, which was really unexpected, based in events at Dingwall, especially when it was so late. That happening just as you're walking into the stadium, and then the events to unfold the way they did. A nervy afternoon, going from, no, I think we're okay here, we're still in control of the game, to this isn't going to happen today, to just the absolute bedlam that ensued after the goal. So no, it was great, and probably been a while since there was a more kind of meaningful title race goal scored. I'm thinking of Bruni's against Hamilton, but even at that we were still ahead at that time. The fact that we're chasing, the fact that we've been as far as kind of like 7 and 10 at times points behind based in games in hand, and to have then swung round and got it down to 2 with a game against Rangers to come is I think is a phenomenal effort for the team. Probably says a wee bit about Rangers form dip as well, but they themselves have been on a really, really good and strong run, albeit that you got the feeling their luck was going to run out at some points. I think that's fair to say. I don't think that's me being bitter in any way. But all in all, just an absolutely magical day. Really, really enjoyed it, but the work's still to be done.
Absolutely. Sinky, as Mif referenced, it's been a long time since we had a roar like that at Celtic Park. Too long, I'd argue. It was magic, eh?
What a buzz. I can't remember leaving a game feeling like that. It's been a long, long time. What a moment. I was in the standing section for it. I think I ended up about 4 or 5 rows down. Bodies everywhere, limbs everywhere, but it was fantastic. Yeah,
I was trying to do the maths. I was about 4 rows over, 5 rows up, 7 across for there. But it was a real moment, and it was just a real explosion all round. I mean, we've been there for games like, Vinegar of Hesslink's late diving header in that season, Massimo Donati, if you remember that one. There's all sorts, take your pick, but that was as good as any. It's as loud a roar as I've heard. There was just something about it, just the volume of it was something like...
It was relief, excitement, all the emotions, because it was going to be Sod's Law that they obviously drew up at Dingwall and we were going to follow suit, but then up step LIEL Abada, bang.
Absolutely. So we'll get to all of that and more in just a minute. Just before we get started for today, I want to remind everyone that you can now watch our weekly episodes on YouTube as well as listen to them on all the usual podcast platforms. This means that not only do you get to hear the insightful opinions that Mif and Sinky offer, you also get to see their beautiful wee faces at the same time. The support so far on YouTube has been amazing, and if we can ask you to do 2 small things for us before we get started, it will really be appreciated by all of us here at the team. So number 1, subscribe to the channel by pressing the red button somewhere below us here on your screen. And number 2, click on the thumbs up to like this week's episode. That aside, be sure to leave a comment if there's anything you want to debate with us, and we'll be sure to get back to you on that as well. Mif, you like a wee moan and a wee debate from time to time, so maybe we'll put you in charge of the comment section for the time being.
Yes, possibly, but I'd also like to say you've definitely stepped up your jacket game before we started going on to YouTube. There was never anything so dapper worn when we were just audio before. I think you'd agree with that.
I think he's shaved as well.
This is actually an old one of Mif's that I've borrowed for the back of his wardrobe.
Certainly wouldn't be fitting me anymore.
So what we'll do, let's take a wee look at what the main agenda items for this week will be. So firstly, we'll cover that late show from Abada & Co at Celtic Park on Saturday and the 1-0 win that just about took the roof off. Secondly, we'll also cover a bit of Celtic v Hearts from last week, although that seems like a very long time ago already. We'll then touch on some transfer window stuff, given that at time of recording there's just a few hours of the window left to go. And finally, we'll then spend a good chunk of time on Wednesday's Glasgow derby at Celtic Park and the chance for us to go top for the very first time this season. So Mif, I'll come to you first. Sure, you've enjoyed some late winners at Celtic Park over the years, but just how good was it to see Abada's effort crash high into the net on the 90th minute?
Well, it was absolutely magic, and you knew just how critical it was going to be because there wasn't enough time left in the game for anything else to happen. It was getting to that stage where it was make or break. I think a lot of credit has to go to Jota, just for the the kind of cameo that he played and lifting the crowd and showing that spark and that energy and enthusiasm. Because it would have been easy for the players to get down themselves and think, well, we're down to 10 men, we'll just kind of hold on, take the point. We didn't expect Rangers to drop anyway, so there's no real damage done prior to the game on Wednesday, but they didn't. They kept going. As the manager says, we don't stop, and it seemed to be true. He seemed to instill in that kind of fight in them. It was something we were always synonymous with, was late winners and keeping just pressing all the time. Last year it was noticeable that the last 10-15 minutes of games we were actually tiring, and it was the opposition that were pressing us more. We were always kind of hanging on. So it's just nice to see that kind of shift in momentum back to football being played by Celtic the way that we like to see it. As for Abada, just to quickly touch on that, I know it's been a point that's been made by several people, but that touch is everything. The ball's quality, although the Dundee United defender seems to kind of walk underneath the ball. It was slightly strange. I don't know what he thought was going to happen, but absolutely ice cool for Abada, just an absolute assassin. That touch in the left, the rifled finish with the right foot against a keeper who's having an inspired game, just absolutely magic.
Yeah, it's a point that shouldn't go unnoticed, Sinky. So, at a stage in the game, the tension that was in the air, the ball comes across. To the point of the Dundee United defender, the suggestion is he was a guy that had gone down with cramp just before it, and he maybe just didn't have enough in the tank to get a leap on it. But yeah, it seemed that he almost ducked underneath it. Everyone else has thrown themselves for that first time. You're just trying to get anything on it, bundle it over the line. To show the composure at 20 years of age, when there's bedlam all around them, to take the cute touch with the left and then just smash it home the right. It was exceptional.
Brilliant goal. He had a great game. I thought he was excellent, Abada. But yeah, to your point, 20-year-old, I think he's involved in that. 20 goals he's been involved in.
One for every year on the planet. That's how he does his goal contributions. So it's 12 goals and 8 assists, I think.
That's some going. That's some going. I know he's had his critics for some sections of the support, but for 20-year-old to be able to do that, and you're right, he was the coolest man in the ground at that point. The touch, Mif said, it's special.
Just on the point of Abada, I made a point, this may seem slightly contrived, but I made a point at the weekend that he's like Celtic's version of a double glazing salesman, in that it doesn't really matter what happens in the game. How many knockbacks he gets, he'll slice one into the crowd, he'll miss a one-on-one, he'll duff a pass, he just continually presses, he just keeps going, presses, makes the runs, hassles, shows for the ball, tries to take guys on. Just the attitude that he's got, he just is relentless. And the amount of goals he scored, pop him up at the back post when he's playing off the right. I think he scored 3 or 4 headers. The amount of goals we've scored when he's won the ball high up the park, there's just loads to like about him. I know he's not the finished article, he's still a bit raw. For me, based on what I've seen and what we've got, and I know we'll probably go into this in a lot more depth, I think he's got to start through the middle.
There's a fair shout on that. Just to go back to your analogy, I mean, like all good double glazing salesmen, he should pop up at the back post and score a winner at a full Celtic Park,
that's true.
As they all do. But no, you're right. He actually had a chance about 5 minutes before it on the head. I think he's mistimed his jump and he's just been stretching for it. It's gone high and wide, and the groans go around the stadium, and you're thinking that's done and dusted. But to your real point, Mif, he's shown that resilience to just keep chapping the door and keep coming back, and geez, there's no better time to do it than Saturday, given everything that was at stake. So real credit to a guy so young to steady himself to do so. Side note to the goal, how good was it to see Jota going berserk in the crowd? The photos and the images, everybody's seen them. I don't want to point anyone towards them, but the adulation, and he absolutely loved it. Listen, we don't know if we'll get
Juranovic is in there somewhere as well.
I think he's holding his ankles.
Aye, he's in there somewhere.
But whether we get him permanently or not, you never know. We might hear tonight about some news about a permanent Jota or CCV. But regardless, think if he signs full time or not, he knows what it's all about for this season, doesn't he?
He does. He must be loving it, because I know he's had a couple of loan spells, but he must be loving this. Like, I know he's come back for his injury, but to set up the win on Saturday, I've watched that about 10 times, and it's just one of the, there's a real togetherness. And do you know what I really liked about Saturday? The fans never for once got on Celtic's back. The support was absolutely brilliant. I think Ange mentioned it in his post match, because usually if you're getting that, there'll be the moans and groans, but the back of the team for the fans was brilliant on Saturday.
Yeah, I was saying, I was trying to work out, and I wasn't sure if it's, we've come through such a strange time in life the last couple of years, so maybe it's that maybe it's the Ange effect, maybe it's something else, but it just felt like something different on Saturday, and it's maybe because we just feel we're on the cusp of something.
Yes, but I also think the Janssen tribute played a part as well, because what I noticed was even when Celtic Park is close to being full, you still notice the odd gap here between rows or the odd green seat. What I noticed was when the Janssen tribute was happening, as poignant as it was, you could see how full Celtic Park was. It was genuinely properly full, and I think that just helped create that extra wee 10% in the atmosphere. It really was. It was electric. It was electric.
That and the fact, obviously, the result went our way earlier on in the game. But like I was watching that in the TAV. And when it went in, the place just went mental. And then obviously that we've taken that to Celtic Park.
There's a whole lot of things at play there. I think as well, just when they were doing the minutes applause for Wim Janssen, the applause and cheering started well before the announcer asked people to start. So there was already a bit of a frenzy. But you just cut to guys like Matt O'Reilly and Rio Hatate and other guys at that time, and they'll have been looking around themselves, very respectful, of course, of Wim Janssen and everything he achieved, but they were thinking, what is this place? What is this that I'm now a part of? And, there's been lots of chat for Matt O'Reilly. MK Dons a few weeks ago. His footballing world and life has been flipped upside down. Tynecastle to start with last week. That on Saturday. And I don't know how he's going to react to the bedlam of Wednesday night, but what a turnaround for a guy like that to come from MK Dons and find himself in a title race with Celtic.
It's a different world, isn't it? Absolute different world. So he's came in, obviously debut at Tynecastle, and then he's in a full parkhead. So you're right, Tino, he must be he must be pinching himself.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as we know, the game was on a knife edge as we headed into the final 10 minutes. Maybe he thought there wasn't enough drama in there at the time, or maybe he just never thought at all. But Q-Near beat on to wipe out a Dundee United player on the edge of the box, and all of a sudden we're down to 10 men. Now, in hindsight, a lot of folk are saying that we would have more chance of winning that game with 10 men at that stage than if we'd gone 1-0 down, and I think it's a really valid point. So in fact, you could say that Beaton done the right thing and took one for the team. So I mean, what you say to that, Sinky, is it hero or Nero?
There's three things that are certain in life: death, taxes, and Nero getting a yellow card or a red card. He's just,
well, that's 4 things.
Well, either one. So, but he always seems to the first one. He's took one for the team because they're on the break, and he's brought them down. The second one, Taylor's looking for the foul. It might have been potentially could have been a foul, and I think he's set him up the river a wee bit with that one.
There is absolutely no doubt that it's a foul on Taylor. I mean, the guy's went right in his ankle. It's actually quite a bad tackle. He's kind of stamped down his ankle, but obviously because it's Greg Taylor, the refs no gave it. Poor Greg, much maligned even by referees, because he's turned his back in the Brotherhood. So then you've got Beaton left with a fairly. Does he know who's on the cover? I don't think so, because he's spun round with the player. I think he's done what he's thought's been right at the time. Beaton, unfortunately, is such a player that he is the cynical one. When he plays in midfield, he is the one who will commit fouls and break up play. You won't really see other midfielders do it in the team, whether it be McGregor, Rogic, Turnbull. They don't really do that. It's always Beaton. So he's always in a knife edge. That's just it. No doubt Ange absolutely loves him. Yeah. Otherwise he would have been bombed out the squad a long time ago based on what happened at Midtjylland. There's obviously things going behind closed doors where Beaton's a big effect in the squad, and Ange feels that he's pivotal what he's trying to achieve here.
Yeah. Well, tell me this, Sinky, if he doesn't pull the guy and he managed to break through, I know there was a bit of cover, but they managed to get a clear shot and goal and we go 1-0 down. Are we winning that game on Saturday? 81st minute?
No. It was just stuffy. I mean, I think he's called it the other week. It's Paddock called it last week. Hearts would be more comfortable than Saturday was going to be a stuffy game. Mm-hmm. But you're right. But I don't think they're going to 10 men. They actually came out more. They didn't really change their tactics. They just kind of played the same. And it's obviously taken a bit of magic to break the deadlock. Yeah,
leads us to the next point nicely. So Ange made some big calls during this game. A couple of real notable ones. So even before Beaton's sending off, he's made a huge call by throwing 16-year-old Ben Doak on for his debut in the 68th minute of a must-win game. What were you doing at 16, Mif?
No comment.
Anything good, Sinky?
I was hanging about with you, so can I put that one here?
Nothing good either.
Wearing fake Borussia Dortmund taps and a less tracky bottoms.
And you're still doing that to this day.
Hi.
So you've got Ben Doak. He turned 16 in November, and he isn't able to appear for the first team until year 16. So he was on the bench at the St Johnstone game on Boxing Day. Ange is then saw fit to return him to the squad for this game. I think Steve McManus was banging the drum for him. I've read that article, and obviously guys like Stephen and others have seen him in the academy and seen what he can offer. He wasn't fazed by it, was he?
No, he looked really brave. He was shown for the ball every time. Every time he was down the right hand side. I think the opinion of him's got obviously high. I don't know if Liverpool were trying to court him as well. But to be 16 and the manager to trust you when you're chasing the game, to chuck him in there that speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Good old West of Scotland word, gallus. He seems to have that right level of gallusness where he can just swagger on the park and take it all in his stride. And I think, as much as technical abilities, a lot to do with people succeeding in football, mental resilience is a huge factor, and it bodes very well that he approached the game or his cameo with the attitude that he did, unfazed, looking to make things happen, looking to try and make a difference. If that mentality's been instilled in him, dare I say, by the manager, telling him to go on the park and express himself, then that can only be a good thing. Yeah. I think just to touch on the whole point of the changes the manager made, I thought James Forrest had a very strange game on Saturday, bordering on really hesitant. I don't know if it was being out in the left, but even basics, the ball was going over his head, getting into the corner when he knew there was nobody behind him other than a United defender, and he was kind of ball watching and then running to shut the defender down. He was letting the ball run when he should have been taking it. Just loads of wee different niggly things. I don't know if that's an indication that he's just right out of form or that he's lacking a bit of confidence, but I thought it was a very strange 45 minutes for James Forrest.
Yeah, and I think just to point out, this shows that there's certainly no agenda against James Forrest, because you're a bigger fan of Forrest.
A huge James. I say that as a huge James Forrest.
As anybody. And I know Paddy's a huge fan as well, and I'm not sure your own thoughts, Sinky, somewhere in between.
In between.
Yeah. But the point is, he is having a poor run of form. He's obviously struggled a lot in the last 18 months with injury. And yeah, like you, Mif, I thought he was really sketchy on Saturday, and a lot of people are saying that's Forrest done, that's him finished. That is very, very harsh and very premature. You can just accept nowadays that players can go out of form as much as they can go into form, but it seems he's off form at the moment, and that's okay. He can find his feet and he can recover. At, 30, 31? I think there's plenty of time for James Forrest to play his part.
He's not a starter anymore, and playing him in the left, he just looks a bit lost. That whole left hand side, obviously Ange made the big call at half time to kind of mix it up and change it, but the Forrest, he's got serious competition now for a place, and I just don't think he's comfortable playing the left hand side. When he comes inside, he looks a bit doesn't know what to do with it, and when he goes outside, he can't cross the ball with his left foot.
For all that said though, the chance that he set up for O'Reilly was him going out the outside on his left foot, and he's got it buried. I mean, it was 13, 14 yards out, dead centre of the goals, goalkeeper's away at the front post. He really just had to pass the ball into the net. He's just screwed it wide. So for all that, if that goes in, you're talking about a James Forrest assist and blah blah blah. But my point is his general play and even the way he looked, his demeanour, I thought he was just a bit off. Yeah, and I think James broke into the first team, I think around about 2012 there or thereabouts, and he's not had any real competition out in that right wing position. Now, with some of the wingers that Ange's brought in, as you say, Sinky, he's not guaranteed his place, and that should be good for anybody. Keeps you on your toes, keeps you driving forward. The left hand side I don't think suits him though. It suits Jota. He's got that bag of tricks and whatever he can offer. James Forrest is mostly about his pace. He's not known for doing the lollipops and step overs and all sorts. He's more about driving to a byline, and getting the cross in. That doesn't really work when he's on the left hand side. And I thought it was good that Ange recognised that. Scales wasn't having the best game either, and he just made the changes straight away. Some managers wait, we'll see what happens. Ange, he's got no time for sentiment or anything like that. He saw an issue and he addressed it. What kind of impact do you think Jota had when he came on? I was surprised and pleased to see him, take to the field right at the start of the second half. He gave the place a lift, didn't he? Absolutely,
he always does. He likes it up. Gets the fans off their seats. With his ability, but you just know when he plays, something's going to happen. He created a couple of things. Don't know if he put the cross in for Giakoumakis with a big lancing header. Was that Jota?
Yeah, no, he certainly put the cutback for Giakoumakis where he 6 yards out.
That was the keeper was on his backside and still saved it. So, but I know Jota just lights it up. What can you say about the guy?
Yeah, he's phenomenal. So listen, what we'll do is go back a wee step. So we're talking about the big calls that Ange has made. Speaking of Giakoumakis, you're down to 10 men. You're in a game you must win. he takes off our only recognised centre forward. Madness or genius, I'm not sure. We'll get to it in a second. He's then shuffled the pack. He's effectively put Abada more central, Mif, and that's something that you're maybe banging the drum on for Wednesday coming. It made all the difference, didn't it?
Well, I think you look at the evidence, and when almost a third string, never mind second string team went up to McDermott Park, Abada was still really, really effective purely because of his movement, and that's what helped elevate the team. I think on that day was that they had an out ball to go to. Now, admittedly, when you're playing at home against a team that's just sitting in, the movement is nullified to a degree because there's not a lot of space to move into. But he's just a guy that makes telling contributions, Abada, and I think maybe whilst he's still gaining that wee bit of experience, having him through the middle helps because it's more an instinct for him just to kind of run on and finish. I think that's in his locker, whereas when he's out wide, he's maybe got a wee bit more time to think about it, where he's a bit more deliberate in trying to take the man on, and which he still does from time to time very effectively. But no, I just think just now, especially Kyogo and Maeda missing, I think he gives you that sort of movement and pace up front that we need. Giakoumakis, I seen somebody put on Twitter, does he just not like playing at Parkhead? Because he seems to save his best performances away for Celtic Park, but I don't think Giakoumakis is an absolute busted flush either. I think he's shown enough to say that he gives us a decent enough alternative. But I just think for Wednesday, I think with the guys that we've got missing, it would be Abada through the middle for me. Yeah,
I think Giakoumakis was very effective on Wednesday at Tynecastle, but less so on Saturday, Sinky.
Yeah, they didn't have a good game. They had a couple of good chances, like the keeper, they had 2 good saves against them. The header I mentioned, and then the cut back as well. But he has a plan B. He's never going to start with Maeda and Kyogo in there. But to Mif's point, Abada is going to give you more movement, he's more dynamic, more direct. Rangers won't play the low block, I don't believe. They won't come and shut up shop, so it might be a decent alternative to stick him through the middle.
It might be, and we'll get into Rangers in a lot more detail shortly. I think they might play fairly pragmatically. I think Van Bronckhorst has a different approach to these games, and I don't think he'll go for it in the way that Gerrard might have done. We can cover that, but I think to an extent they might be quite happy to stay fairly deep. They won't park the bus by any stretch, but it'll be interesting to see how they set up. The lineups will tell a lot, and we'll then see if we've got the creativity to get in the back. One point on Giakoumakis, he had a great chance about 5 minutes in. Can't remember who played him in. The ball over the top, and it just wouldn't come down for him, and that was it wouldn't fall for him. Good strikers make it come down. You get that touch early and you play it into your path. He was waiting, and the United guys made a good block, but a more instinctive finisher. Kyogo finishes it, Maeda probably finishes it, and that's a disappointment. I think he will start with Giakoumakis, but we'll cover that as well. But yeah, as you say, Sinky, it wasn't his day. Any final points on Dundee United before we move on to cover a wee bit of Hearts?
Final points. I thought the central midfield looked a bit in the first half. Certainly, I just thought it looked a wee bit lightweight.
So Beaton,
Hatate, but I don't know if that was because how deep United were sitting, and we ended up becoming quite stretched. The midfield across the way rather than top to bottom. I felt across the pitch, Hatate was almost playing as a left back at points. Just that was something I felt first half. But again, the game doesn't flow as a normal game when a team comes to set up the way United did. It was really quite. I was slightly disappointed. I thought it would have been more of a game in that sense, because United having got a win midweek, they've been in a decent run of, well, not a more recent decent run of form, but they're in a safe enough position in the league. But they just came to part the bus. Yeah,
I had actually forgot all about Tony Watt, being part of their team from at half time. He was more involved in the second half before it went off, and I didn't even realise he'd been involved in the game at all. I thought he'd maybe been on the bench. Such was the lack of attacking intent that United showed. They did have a couple of flashpoints within the first 5 minutes, but that aside, it fizzled out. But it is a difficult game to manoeuvre, and I think what we keep forgetting, or maybe we don't, is that Celtic are navigating all of these fixtures with 4, 5, 6 guys missing. So it's really quite impressive. I thought after the game, Ange was particularly level-headed in his interviews. He wasn't getting carried away, and I actually think that's a very deliberate move, ahead of what we've got this week. I think it says to the fans as well as the players that there's a long way to go, and he's urging everyone to just take it one game at a time. So let's hear what Ange had to say after the game.
We've just got to keep doing what we're doing. We've got to play better than we did tonight. We've got to, maintain our sort of focus on the kind of football we want to play. That's always the key, because, we understand that winning on Wednesday night gets us into first position, but it doesn't get us a trophy. And until we get a trophy in our hands, we can't stop. We just got to keep doing what we're doing. And I thought, to be fair, I just thought that the fans were outstanding tonight. They just, it's very easy. It would have been easy for them to sort of get on the players' backs or get frustrated, but they just kept willing them on, and they were outstanding, and we're going to need them again on Wednesday night.
Mif, what do you think of Ange's tone there and how he's approaching things at the moment?
What a guy. What a guy. He's saying all the right things, and it's very true. And what he's saying, he's a matter-of-fact kind of guy, and what he says is true. We beat Rangers on Wednesday, great, brilliant, but you've not won anything. There's still work to be done. Likewise, if the worst happens in Wednesday night, the league's not done and dusted, there's still a long way to go. I think we just need to keep doing what we're doing. That's exactly what Ange says. He's built the team to this point. He's got his reinforcements in. Still unfortunate the way the international fixtures have went, that we've got players missing. Kyogo's still injured. When we're back at full strength, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what sort of team we're putting out and what level of performance we're able to maintain, because the fact that we're still getting the business done, we're still winning games, tough games, going to Tynecastle, winning something that was beyond us at the start of the season, beating Dundee United, something we didn't manage to do at the start of the season at home. We're just kind of up in the ante a wee bit. It's really, really pleasing to see, and that's us not even being at full strength. So, like he says, we don't stop. Yeah,
I think there's a real calmness and a focus there from Ange, but do you think behind the scenes he's certainly like the players, fired up for all the challenges ahead?
Absolutely. His interview there, you couldn't even tell if he won the game or not. We're all leaving Parkhead absolutely buzzing at our minds, and he was very pragmatic in his approach, and he kind of, without using the old football cliches, kind of like one game at a time, but paying tribute to the fans as well. I love that.
Yeah,
absolutely love that.
Yeah, it's clever, but he's right and he's sincere about what he's doing. He's not just, it's not buzzwords, and he's not saying things for the sake of it. He's got the measure of everything going on in the country now. He's had 6 months to find his feet, but he's barely skipped a beat.
Well, just on that point, I don't think, whilst he's kind of paid credit to the fans in general in the past, he was very specific there about that, and I think that is the first time that he's done that, because it's that, what do they call it, football intelligence, so to speak, that they speak of in different groups of fans. The fans knew in Saturday what was at stake, and that by moaning, groaning, huffing and puffing wasn't going to give the players any more confidence. So it was just great to be part of.
Yeah, definitely. So in our last 23 fixtures across all competitions, we've now won 20 of them. We've drawn 2 against Livy and St Mirren in the league, and I've lost just 1, that Europa League game versus Leverkusen in Germany. Sinky, given the injury worries I mentioned that we've had to contend with during that time, how impressive is that run?
That's league winning for him, Tino.
I like it.
As some run, I think I looked at the stats. We're the 5th team in Europe, but unbeaten run. Rangers, I think they're 2nd in that league. So it's a great run. And considering, you're right, the injuries, all of that stuff. Some of the squads we've had to like up to St Johnstone, that was one of the worst benches I've ever seen. He's done a fantastic job at everything he's done, like the recruitment as well. I can't remember like a club that is meant to be in such a transition actually being able to maintain this level of form.
Yeah, it doesn't feel transitional. It feels like we've already jumped a level in the progress. I think what he's created, there's certainly a winning mentality, and the results show there's a winning machine here at Celtic. We just win games of football. It's what we do, whether it's scraping by allegedly against Hearts. There's a number of those games, so let me get my details right. Of those 23 games, that run, there's a number of games that Celtic have only won by 1 goal. Now you could say that's cause for concern, or does it really just indicate that we know how to win games, and at times when we have to, we grind it out?
I would say so, and I think you need to pay a bit of credit to the much maligned defence of Celtic, which was identified as a weak spot by so many at the start of the season. I know that Starfield Starfield seems to be quite a divisive figure among the fans, but I think he isn't an absolute hopeless case. I think he's unorthodox, just the way that he's on the ball. I think that makes people feel quite uneasy when they watch him. But by the same token, I don't think he's the new Baresi either. which a lot of people would have you believe. Some people on social media seem to think there's a media agenda or fans agenda against him. I don't see that either. I think, like any player, he's open to criticism, but what has to be acknowledged with Starfelt and with Carter Vickers, who have been predominantly the two centre halves used, is they have presided over an excellent kind of run for the defence when you look at goals conceded in the league. So I think that's really at the heart of it, is that there's been whilst we are heralded for our attacking play and there's lots of exciting players within that, we've obviously got the structure right defensively, because it's allowed the attacking players to flourish, and we've done it without the concession of too many goals.
I know the interesting thing is at the start of the season we talked about Ange Ball and winning games 6-4 and 7-3 and stuff like that, and you look at the defence, so it's no as what we thought as Ange Ball, because good teams are always built for the back, and it seems to be that, I know Starfelt was critics, but the big CCV's been a stalwart in there.
I should also mention a goalkeeper that makes saves is crucial to that as well.
It's going to play
we tried that playing in goals with a hologram, and that wasn't really working out.
Yeah. So for Celtic's 23 league games, they've only conceded 13. Comfortably the best record in the league, yet we continue to get criticised time after time. On a separate point, Sinky, I've seen a lot of folk claiming at the moment that Celtic are lucky and they're getting the rub of the green in different things, and I just don't think that's the case at all. Granted, Boyce has missed his penalty last week, but there's still a lot of game left, for Hearts to come and try and do their thing.
Who's claiming that?
The internet.
Oh, right, sorry.
The people on the internet.
I thought you'd specifics, names and addresses.
Name names.
Send Sinky in.
I wouldn't do that. But I don't think it's luck at all. I really don't. And Saturday was the second time we've gone down to 10 men. Starfelt getting sent off against Ross County was the other one, and still managed to find a way to win. That says a lot about Ange and the mentality within that dressing room.
It absolutely does. And the Brendan Rodgers character plays a big part in that. But what I really liked about Saturday is, since we come back for the winter break, we've tired in games in the second half. We didn't tire on Saturday. We kept going, and we got our just rewards.
Yeah. Mif, do you think we're being lucky?
No.
Not at all?
Don't. Not, well, you make your own luck.
Rather be lucky. Rather be lucky than good.
You make your own luck. I mean, the boys, Celtic have no influence in Boyce missing a penalty. He missed that himself.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can argue you make your own luck, whatever it might be. The issue with the Hearts game, which I think we're going to come on to, is quite simple. We just gassed the last 20 minutes of that game. For me, it's just that simple. But I think Celtic's level of performance has been very good. I could actually argue that the games that we've dropped points, we've been very unlucky to do so, rather than looking at it the other way, be lucky to gain points. There's a few last minute winners in there, but that's just a sign the team keeps going. Yeah,
so of those 23 games that I mentioned, there's 12 of them where we've won by a single goal margin, going way back to Aberdeen in October, 2-1. I think that was a Jota fairly late goal.
No, that was lucky.
What was lucky about that?
We were pretty poor that day. That was a get out of jail. I'll accept that.
But you've also created a goal from a Rogic pass to Montgomery to Jota. It's a good goal. It's not a lucky goal.
No, it's a crank goal.
So we're lucky, we know. I can't get my head straight with you.
That game was lucky, but we're not lucky in general.
But there's a whole host of one goal margins. Even as recently, as Hearts just there, we've won 2-1 against Hearts, we've won 1-0 against Dundee United. But I just think it shows a mentality. And it's becoming such a cliche now, referring back to Ange's "we don't stop" video. But we don't. The guys are playing to the 90th minute, the 95th minute. You talk about Ralston up in Dingwall. 96 minutes in Dingwall isn't for everybody, Sinky, but it is for Ralston and this Celtic team. So they've shown a real resilience rather than just getting lucky. You don't go on 23 game runs like that if you're a lucky team.
And the thing is, it's a squad mentality, right? Because you've seen the changes against, we played Betis, and you've seen the guys that are coming in, squad players coming in with the same mentality. So it's right through the club, and winning's a great habit, and we seem to be doing that at the moment.
Yeah.
Half that team against Betis have been loaned out or sold now, man. That's the problem. They're all away. I was just thinking when you said that about the 96 minute at Dingwall, that bus would have been good on the way home, wouldn't it? That bus, no, the Rangers, I'm talking about the Celtic bus when Ralston scored that'd have been some trap.
So we'll do to go back to the Hearts game. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, it does seem like a long time ago, but we showed all the attributes last week. I thought that you need to win a league title. A couple of really good goals, Hatatis particularly, Giacomakis, classy finish, some really good all-round play, particularly the first half, and then the character to dig deep in the second half to grind out the result. Mif, what impressed you most at Tynecastle?
Well, I think Hatatis struck that, and Craig Gordon's been thinking about his salt and sauce going on his chips after the game, straight through him. Great to see, I have to say, absolutely brilliant to see. Hatate is one of those guys who seems to operate. He's just a classy player, really classy player. Whilst I thought he looked a wee bit tired on the game Saturday against Dundee United. Don't know if maybe the effects of playing the 2 games in a week so soon after joining had an effect, but I thought first half in particular he was absolutely outstanding. I really enjoyed watching him. I thought Beaton was excellent, although probably lucky not to be sent off with a handball.
He made up for it Saturday.
Yeah, well, he caught up. O'Reilly, very impressive. Giacomakis, very impressive. Starfelt in particular was pretty decent. I thought Carter Vickers actually looked a wee bit shaky at times. But what I will say with regards to Hearts is that the firstly Boyce and then the laddie Sims that they brought on were 2 fairly decent operators. I thought they played well. Yeah, I feel the team just gassed. But I was absolutely delighted. I say the team gassed. We should have been absolutely home and hosed first half and even started second half. I think Gordon's pulled off 4 or 5 saves. Some of them you'd expect him to make, but overall, up to about 65 minutes, a very, very pleasing performance.
Yeah, the first half and beyond was a real buzz, Sinky, and I think to Mif's point, it could have been 3 or 4-0 at that point, but you don't score the goals and it could come back to bite you. What about that Hatate strike though? I think nearly caught Craig Gordon on the back of the head on the way back out.
Wow, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I don't know if it was Andy Walker that was criticising Gordon. He says near it, but the power of the strike was brilliant. Pleasing thing for me was O'Reilly coming in his debut, which is a hostile environment. I thought it was a brilliant debut. Also, when they score the goal, they get their tails up, and you know what it's like there. I mean, 2-0. You're silencing that lot up there, but they get a goal after in the second half. It just gives them a lift, and the impetus is on it to get the next one. And obviously the Boyce one, we'll probably look back at that at the end of the season. That'll be a pivotal moment, I believe.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, what do you think of the fact that just from a progress point of view and the mentality of the team, they've buried the demons of that first game of the season?
Absolutely. If you remember the first game of the season though, we had a lot of the ball. We're not creating much, but we had a lot of the ball. Abada's goal ruled off for offside. So there's a bit of luck involved there. Or well, inept officiating, whatever way you want to call it, but there's a bit of luck involved there. You reverse that round, you probably get a wee bit of luck with Beaton not being sent off. Some things go in your favour, like you say. Boyce has missed the penalty, but we should have been well out of sight before then. If you look at the individual performances of the players, there's not really been anybody that's let you down. I think it just shows the mentality of the squad, like Sinky referenced earlier. The mentality of the squad is just improving. We were far and away the better team in the first half. In fairness to Hearts, they made a few changes. The centre mid that came on, Beningame as well, looks a really, really good player. He came on, he sort of solidified them in the midfield. Sims gave him a good option up front, with Boyce playing off him. So in fairness to Hearts, they did step up second half, but definitely it was night and day really, the performance or the level of performance the first half against Hearts there compared to the first game of the season. Also pretty nice to see Giacomakis contribute the way he did. He played as we would like him to play, a focal point, a physical presence up front, holding the ball up, winning crucial fouls to alleviate pressure. It's great to see that we have a player in the squad that can do that. Just unfortunate that he didn't quite back it up on Saturday against United.
But you might be right about this playing away from home, because when you play away from home, Hearts are going to play a low block at Tynecastle. They're going to have a go because their fans will demand it. So that just played into his hands because that just sits him to the ground. It's
an interesting point, and I was going to just finish off the Hearts chat about Giacomakis because he's shown 2 sides of his game there. He's shown real confidence for his first goal, and I thought it was really classy, the goal, but he's then showed a completely different side of his game. He's done the back to goal thing, he's pinned John Souttar at different times, and he's done what he has to do to get us over the line. I think moving forward, when everyone's back fit and available, Kyogo, Maeda in particular, you're going to see Giacomakis starting on the bench more often than not. But if you're winning a game 2-1, 1-0, whatever, he's a decent outlet to come on. He may grab you a goal, but he'll certainly run the clock and hold defenders off and bring your midfield into the game. So he does give you that something, and we'll hear it all the time. You said it earlier on, plan B, second option, alternative, all these kind of things, but he's bringing something to the party. He didn't have a great game on Saturday. He'll get another chance, I think, on Wednesday, and we'll get to that shortly. So the transfer window officially closes in a few hours' time, and if Celtic are to do no more business, I'd say we'd all be pretty happy with that. Keeping in mind, Mif, that this time last year, the incoming transfer, the sole incoming transfer, was JFK, John Joe Kenny. And we'll know how that worked out. Sinky, we've brought in Maeda, Hatate, Gucci, Johnny Kenny, not to be confused with, and Matt O'Reilly. You happy with that?
I'm delighted with that. The fact we've done our business as early as we've done as well, doing our business before the window even opened, which was great. And obviously we've been unlucky with the Kyogo's a big Gucci one, and then Miada going to the international qualifiers. We're unlucky with these guys, but the recruitment seems to be absolutely spot on. Bringing in the players at the right fit seems to be something that Ange can quite identify, and it's very interesting when he talks about the signing of the players. He talks more about their character more than their football ability. If he's not, he kind of touches on it quite a lot. He's a decent human being, he's a decent guy, he'll fit in well, and then the football's probably the second part. Yeah. But these guys are bringing in, there seem to be a lot of quality signings, not just to booster the squad. We've been guilty of bringing in loans and all that kind of stuff. Your man last year just to boost the numbers, but we seem to have recruited some quality players.
Yeah, he's bringing in good players, and they're also lovely guys.
They're lovely,
and that's nice, isn't it? That's what we're after.
If you talk about the evolution of the recruiting policy, selling Frimpong for 12 million and bringing in John Joe Kenny, to think to where we're at now, it definitely seems like an upgrade.
Yeah. Could you imagine though, Hamish was on last week, and really good to have him on the show. He made the great point. Can you imagine we didn't have Hatate and O'Reilly over the last 3 games there? What kind of shape our midfield would have been in? I don't know, you could have a guess at that, but Sorrow would have played more. McCarthy would have been starting games and playing full 90 minutes, and the creativity that Hatate and O'Reilly have offered immediately, it's been really impressive. I think the guys have known each other about a fortnight, but they've played, they're playing together for a long time. Yeah,
it's crazy how they've actually just hit the ground running. I mean, I think up to the Hearts game, Hatate had only played 70 minutes of football in a month. So for him to come in and the way we play, it's very high. It's demanding, isn't it? You've seen obviously the way we tire in second halves, but for him to come in and hit the ground running, and I know it's been stop-start for other guys. As I mentioned, but I'm excited to get them back in as well. We've not really seen the best of them yet either, so no, I'm really happy with the January transfer window.
I need to say on O'Reilly though, he is absolutely beautiful.
Dashing.
Beautiful.
He's a handsome chap.
Yeah. Did we sign him for Hollyoaks?
Possibly. He's outstanding, but we'll get to that later. Maybe not. Tell you, the other thing, apart from the guys that have come in, we may also see a few exits today. So Ayeti's still linked with FC Bâle, his old club. I think Gothenburg are linked with Barkas.
I've got the motor out there, so I'm happy to run to the airport.
I'll pay the petrol.
I'm available.
I think Uragiri has gone on loan.
Pedro, I'm here.
I think Uragiri has gone on loan to KV Ostend, which is where... What do you call him?
Jack
Henry went and done pretty well. And I think Adam Montgomery, he was due to go on loan to Kelly. That seems to have fallen through. And just to scunner Derek McInnes, it looks like he's going to go to Aberdeen instead. So any thoughts on guys that may or may not exit?
Shaw's already waiting Motherwell, Uragide to Oostensted and Montgomery to Aberdeen. Hopefully he'll get his fringe cut when he's up there. I can't think he ended it. Well, Sorrow, possibly.
Maybe you might keep him around for a bit of cover, given
maybe. I suppose given maybe Mikey Johnson. There was chat of him going to, was it Hibs or Aberdeen?
Aberdeen, but then they signed a young Dutch fella, so I'm not sure what's happening with Mikey.
I can't think him. The most bizarre link was Welsh to Udinese. Don't know where that came from.
And I think Ange put that in the bin early, saying he's going nowhere. Sinky, just a quick one, not much detail required, but who do you think will be the most important of the 5 guys we've brought in? Who are you really excited about?
Your man, it's no there at the moment. Maida, I think it's going to be a great signing. I think he's going to bang them in when he gets a run. I don't know if he's better through the middle or playing out wide, so we'll see what Ange thinks, but I think he's going to be a great signing for us. He looks like an absolute head case, so he gets my vote.
Yeah, what about you, Mif?
Hatate for me. I just think he looks really classy. It'll be interesting to see with McGregor coming back. I'd quite like Hatate just to play a bit further forward in a more kind of advanced creative role. He just looks he's got a lot to offer. Honourable mention to O'Reilly as well. I just think the way that he's seamlessly come in, he just looks completely unfazed. And when you're talking about the kind of moral fibre of the players that were signing, the fact he rejected the contract at Fulham because he didn't feel it was the right place for him to go, and the fact he's came to Celtic because he sees that he's obviously going to put the requisite amount of work in to improve himself to go and make the next move in his career, and we're going to benefit for that in the meantime. So No, I'm really excited with the signing of both of them.
He's only 21 as well. I think he's 21, so
He's only going to get better.
To be honest, he's probably always got to look young. Even when he's 40, he's got to look 21. Absolute dreamboat.
There was a start. He created 8 key chances against Hearts on Wednesday, so that's your debut. You're coming in, you don't know what Tynecastle's all about, but you've just gone about and created 8 chances anyway. He had a very decent game on Saturday too. Had a couple of, obviously, a very good chance, the one from Forest, and a decent chance with a glancing header in the second half. I think he's fitted in seamlessly, but for me, Mif, Hatati's the man as well. I think he's just going to exceed all expectations. You can just see real class in the guy, and it's just a real bonus to have him in so early, and it'll be exciting to see how both of those guys, amongst others, fare on Wednesday night. On that note, lads, now that we've covered all the other stuff behind it, let's get to the real business of Wednesday night. So it's a big showdown with Rangers at Celtic Park. Put simply, Sinky, a win on Wednesday and we go top for the very first time this season. The players don't need any bigger incentive, do they? Bring it on.
They've been waiting for this moment for a couple of years. We need to win on Wednesday night. We need to beat them. With me, if we're talking off here, it's mentally we need to win. We need to kind of put them back in their box. But a full house at Parkhead, our tails are up. The results are very well. We've hung on their coattails for a few months now, and we're in touching distance. And I see Wednesday as an excellent opportunity to put things right and get a big result.
Yeah, very quickly, Mif, in the last 3 fixtures, a 6-point gap is now a 2-point gap. It's huge, isn't it, in terms of what it brings to Wednesday's game?
The point I'd made to Sinky earlier was if this had been played pre-break at 7 points and they win 10 points, you're probably coming back thinking the league's done after the break. So the momentum shift has been very stark. I'm just really, really pleased with the way that the squad's evolving, the mentality that's within the squad, and like we've already spoken about, the connection between the players and the fans. I think that's really, really critical. Is that even in the past, and I know Dyer had a connection with the fans, probably more so than what the fans had with some of the players, but it seemed to be a pretty select group. Under Rodgers, it was a bit more clinical and professional. Obviously, we were happy we were winning, but there is a genuine warmth between the fans and Ange. This time, I think he's won over the vast majority of fans, albeit bar a couple. My mates in the group chat, they're still no utterly convinced. Aye. No, they're still not utterly convinced on him. Honestly, I don't believe that. I think I'm not going to rat them out on here.
Maybe time for new mates.
Time for new mates.
Time to move on, lads.
But no, new mates online or anything these days.
Well, no, it would surprise you. So, I mean, for me, what more can the guy do? I just think it's been a phenomenal effort, and long may it continue. Like he says, don't judge me in my first season, judge me in the second. So we'll be expecting the Champions League.
Yeah. Sinky, what will Ange's biggest task be between now and kick-off? Is it keeping the players focused, relaxed?
I think he'll just go about his business as he does. I don't think there'll be much change. Obviously, the expectation, the pressure is going to be more than he's ever experienced, and definitely domestic level with being Celtic manager. So I think he'll keep the players grounded. And he'll just go about his business as he normally does.
I think so. I don't think he wants to change it for this game. I think you get the same 3 points for Rangers as you do for anybody else. And I think whatever routine they've got up at Lennoxtown and beyond, it's worked well so far. I don't think he'll be putting a different slant on it this time around.
No, I can't see it. He seems quite what's the word I'm looking for? Quite a methodical kind of coach, and he's got the way that he likes to work. And I think he's referenced that with regards to tactics. He's not going to change for MD. I don't see preparation falling under the same bracket. It'll just be a case of getting the players, as fresh and ready as they can. Games post break have came thick and fast, so the squad has suffered as a result because some injuries and international call-ups. So it's really just try to keep the players as fresh as possible to enact that sort of high intensity game that he likes to play. The interesting part for me will be how Rangers choose to face it, whether they go toe to toe with us or whether they maybe sit in and go quite defensive, because the thing that would worry me from a general play point of view is we've got a tendency to leave a bit of space between midfield and defence, and the likes of Kent in particular on the break could be pretty dangerous. So it'll just be really interesting to see how it plays out tactically. But my hope is that we start fast and get a quick lead.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as with any game of this size, we'll be hoping that the referee won't be the main talking point after the 90 minutes, but you never know. Bobby Madden's a ref on Wednesday night, and hopefully he gets all the big calls right. One man who knows all about that world is former Grade 1 referee Steve Conroy, who famously walked away from top flight refereeing following issues that he had with the SFA. Here's a short clip of him talking on the new Get Involved Ref podcast, which launches this week.
Well, there was a couple of incidents in that, and the one that I'll admit that was wrong, Kyle Lafferty, I should have sent him off, but I cautioned him, and it was a straight red. He straight legged. I can't remember. Celtic German defender.
Oh, Henkel. Was it?
No. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. But straight legged, straight red card. But when you see it on the telly, and it was because I was probably just absolutely buzzing. I was in the wrong angle. I was far too far up the pitch at that point, and I shouldn't have been there. And I probably would never have been in that position in any other game in my life. So I saw it. Kyle Lafferty back on, so I knew he'd done something, but I didn't know what it was. But if I'd been in my normal position, I'd have seen it sideways. It'd been a straight red, not a problem. A slight, well, it's more than slight. An annoyance is that when you see it on the telly, there's two other officials who had that side on view, and I didn't get helped out.
And interestingly, I think one of those officials is Willie Collum, who never helped him out on the day. So all interesting stuff. That's the Get Involved Ref podcast, available in all the usual places from this week. Mif, do you have any concerns about the ref for Wednesday, or would you just be hoping that he won't be the main talking point after the game?
I don't think you can concern yourself with that. I don't think you tie yourself in knots. You'd be concerned about every game if that was the case, because you'd be looking at who the ref was. The standards been fairly poor this season. Madden. I'm not a huge fan, but you just need to take the game as it comes, and I think that's where when you talk about the mentality of Ange and how he prepares the team, he's fairly level-headed, pragmatic, so the players are just got to go on prepared for the game like they would any other. I don't think you can be concerning yourself with who the referee is.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Sinky?
Nah, I'm a Mif with that one. You also, you want to be talking about him after the game, so the quieter game he has, the better it is for all parties concerned. But this game, it's under the spotlight big time, so the referee performance is always dissected regardless, but I'm just hoping that he's not involved in any major incidents or flashpoints.
Yeah. Mif, you mentioned that you're not a fan of Bobby Madden. You want to hear what he says about you.
But listen, it goes without saying, it's hard to respect a bald man.
Fair enough. Moving on, or back to the game. Starting 11, Sinky, how's it looking for you? We know that Kyogo definitely won't make it. Ange's ruled that out. Callum McGregor's looking extremely unlikely, suggesting he might come out with the face mask, but we're not sure about that. There's also a vague suggestion that Maeda and Rogic may somehow be made available, despite the fact that Maeda plays for Japan v Saudi Arabia at 10 in the morning, our time on Tuesday, and Rogic is playing for Australia away to Oman, hard place to go, Mif, at 4 o'clock on Tuesday. So it would seem extremely unlikely these guys will feature.
No, I can't see that one at all. The McGregor stuff's doing the rumour mill that you're right, he's going to wear the mask. But as the back four probably picks itself, I would say. So you want to run through it?
I give us yours.
So Starfelt, CCV is going to be Taylor and Juranovic. They'll pick themselves, I believe. Joe Hart in goals, and then this is the next problem. Hatate and Riley, but who plays the number 6? So it's
Got to be McCarthy.
You think so?
Got to be.
So this is the real interesting point. I think you're right, Sinky. I think goalie takes care of itself. I would think he'll go with Juranovic and Taylor as his fullbacks, Carter Vickers and Starfelt as his centre halves. O'Reilly and Hatate are an almost certainty to play in those more advanced positions. Beaton's ruled out through suspension. It's really McCarthy, maybe Gucci if he passes a fitness test, maybe Mad Sorrell. Has it got to be McCarthy?
It's got to be McCarthy. Otherwise, why is it there?
What do you think, Sinky?
I've got a sneaky feeling for McGregor. I don't know. I think that he's hanging about. You've seen quite a lot of him in the Hearts game and obviously the game in the weekend. But
he's not just a competition man. He's allowed to be there.
I'm just saying, he's there. He's supporting the team, which is great to see. I know Kyogo does it as well. I've got a sneaky feeling he'll play. I'd
love to see it. I really would. And fitness wise, he should be absolutely fine. It's not like he's had a layoff due to something physical, leg wise or whatever. So
it's McCarthy for me. If that's not the case, I'm with Mif. I don't think Sorrell would be running about like a stolen fiesta. Can I have him? And McCarthy's the critics, but the game would probably be more suitable towards him.
Yeah, I think I suppose the questions remain over McGregor's fitness and Gucci's fitness, but if not, it would seem a stick on that it'll be McCarthy. I'd love to see McCarthy go and do the business there on Wednesday night. Another big question then, so moving to the front three. Rangers haven't faced Jota before. That could be spectacular. And if there's one guy you'd love to score on Wednesday, it's got to be him, hasn't it?
Yes, listen, he is just one of those players. He's got an aura about him, and I'm just excited to see him going up against Tavernier. It'll be quite interesting. I really think if we get the ball to him, if we get the service to him, he could do us a bit of damage. And again, I think that feeds into that whole expectation that we might be able to pin Rangers back a bit. Yeah. Because if they give guys like him or even Hatate who'll play out with him that sort of space to run into, that's where we could get a bit of joy.
Yeah. Tavernier in for a long night. I'm telling you, he's in for a long night. Jota's he's going to tear him apart, because Tavernier, when he plays with Rangers, he's not used to playing in the kind of other side, or the other final third. Mm-hmm. He's not equipped to deal, because Jota's inside, outside, bag of tricks. I think it's going to be a long night for Tavernier.
Yeah. What about the other side between Bassey, who was woeful for one of their goals, and what do you call him? The Croatian fella?
Barisic.
Mm. Jota could give most defenders trouble. I think he'll really fancy it. He may switch wings at different times. So, I mean, on that note, who's your front three then? It's Jota plus two, but who are the other two?
I think it'll be Abada and Giakoumakis.
Abada out, right hand side, Giakoumakis to the middle. Yep. That's what I think as well, but you're different, Mif.
I think Forrest, Abada, Jota.
Forrest, despite his poor form at the moment, his poor game.
I think just because he's experienced.
There's also a suggestion that James doesn't generally keep his best performances for Rangers, but do you think he deserves a nod on this occasion?
Again, whilst he never had the greatest of games against United, he was coming back. He's still kind of finding his feet after a fairly, disrupted campaign so far. But Ange does seem to trust him. Ange does seem to trust him. So it wouldn't be a great surprise to me if that was the case. I think I can see that being. I think Abada for the movement and the pace through the middle, Forrest and Jota for their skill, but also their kind of reliability out wide, because they do often create chances for those positions. Yeah,
and I get that about Abada, but you don't have a concern getting into such a game without a recognised number 9?
No particularly, because I think Abada provides a sufficient enough goal threat. I think someone of his pace and movement would give the Rangers defence more problems than someone like Giakoumakis, who may or may not win the physical battle against the likes of Goldson and Bassey.
Yeah, okay. Sinky, just to look at Rangers briefly, they're also missing a few key players. The likes of Steve Davis, Ryan Jack seems to be struggling. Morelos is away, not getting a game for Colombia, which is fun. But they could have Aaron Ramsey in contention, so the suggestion is he's just about tied up some sort of loan deal from Juventus. Some magic numbers going on there, and Juve have got their history with their kind of hooky dealings, but we'll leave that where it is. But is it a concern that a player, listen, he's been a very decent player over the years. I'm not sure if you talked earlier on about the 2016 Aaron Ramsey is very different from this one, but he's a good footballer. Is that a concern that he might come in?
It's a concern. I don't think we should be too worried about him. I mean, he's hardly kicked the ball apart. I feel like playing with Wales, he's hardly kicked the ball for Juventus, to be honest with you. I'm more concerned with they got a bit of luck with Aribo coming back for the African nations, because he's probably their best player. But Ramsey's I know we've got the green tinted specs on, but it's a good signing. It is a good signing, but the big question marks over his fitness. I don't know if he'll be thrown straight in to Parkhead. Well, depending when the deal's done, but I don't think he'll be thrown straight in.
I hope he is thrown straight in, because I think that's a hell of a game for somebody who's not played a lot of football to come into. What do you think on that, Mif?
Well, I think he's a class player. I don't think you can, any sort of rivalry, you want to turn around and say, oh no, he's murdered, but that just quite simple isn't the case. He's a good player. He's a very classy player. However, his injury record isn't great, and how ready would he be to come in and play even 60 minutes, never mind 90? I'm not too sure. But as a signing, it's a good prestige, profile signing for Rangers, no doubt about that. However, how first team ready is remains to be seen. My first thought when I seen it was, I don't really think that's what they need. To me, it looks like they need a centre half. That's just my opinion. But if I'm being honest, I don't really see enough of them. And I think most teams, if they signed Aaron Ramsey, would be happy. So I don't see any reason why Rangers would be different. But I would rather just focus on what we've done, and and that is, we've recruited very well, we've strengthened many areas, we've been unfortunate that we're missing the players we're missing for the reasons why they're missing, but very excited for when they all come back, very excited, and that's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Sinky, Mif makes a decent point there. Ramsey is a good player, but is he what they need just now? They're fairly well stocked in terms of midfielders. You could argue they certainly need a striker, maybe a centre half, maybe a goalie. Alan McGregor showing some interesting form at the weekend at Ross County. Do you think Celtic should maybe target him early? He's not at the races at all, is he? And that would be a real weak point for them at the moment.
Especially with we play, they'd be chasing shadows for quite a lot of that game. We play obviously with a lot of intensity. So you're right what you're saying. If he starts, then that's something we could probably exploit. But he's know what they need at the moment. I think it's just one of the ones he's became available and they've made a move. I'll give them a lift because no doubt about it, when he played with Arsenal, he was a world class player, and you've seen him for Wales. He's carried Wales through quite a lot of the games as well. But it doesn't matter who they sign or who they play. I don't think
that's the big point as well. I don't think Ange will be focusing his attentions too much on Rangers. He'll obviously have the scouting reports and different things, and he'll know what to look out for. But I really believe that it's all about what version of Celtic turn up on Wednesday night. And I think if we turn up and play like anything like the way we can, it's all there for us.
Hearts first half, we play like that, they'll not live with us.
I think the key here, as I mentioned earlier, is how Rangers approach a game from the point of view how much space we're then afforded in the middle of the park, because if Rangers play a further 10-15 yards up the park and there's that space in behind, it's going to be one of the kind of yo-yo games that's end to end. Whereas if Rangers kind of sit in a bit and nullify us, then I think they'll be dangerous in the break. It's just really, really evenly poised, interesting, and I can't wait. It's just one of those games that I'm just so thankful I'm going. I just cannot wait.
But I think it means something. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit. There's meaning behind it. The last ones have been dead rubbers, last season.
So we've not had a full house at Celtic Park for a Glasgow derby since December 2019, which is over 2 years ago. That just seems mad in itself. Keep in mind there also won't be any away supporters in for this game. How big an influence do you think the home crowd could have in this game?
Massive, because as I said, the momentum was with us, and the fans recognise that. And you heard in Ange's interview, he kind of gave us a rally call about needing us behind them. And I tell you what, you'll get that on Wednesday night in abundance, because everyone's going to be well up for that. I know guys that have taken 2 days after work and
2 days
meeting at 12 o'clock for a swally. So I think there'll be a good atmosphere under the lights on a Wednesday night. And a Glasgow derby. Sorry, I only said the old words there. It'll be a special occasion for the fans, especially come back.
A 2-day extravaganza. Are you taking 2 days off your work?
No, sadly not. Tino, a chance would be a fine thing, but the kind of 2-day sessions are a thing of the past for me, unfortunately. But no, I know a few of the boys that are doing likewise. I think it's the temptation of being in the boozer at 11:30 on a Wednesday is just too much for some folk. And then up at the same time on Thursday for a cure. So, no, listen. That's you need to remember to take away whatever colour you're wearing. We've all been through a pretty tough time past couple of years, and ultimately we've been denied such privileges for various different reasons. So to think of the game being moved to midweek, which allows it then to be under the lights, which allows you to have these things where you kind of meet up either after work, take a half day, whatever it is, go to the boozer, couple of jars, onto the bus, away you go. You'll just be absolutely buzzing. So no, I can't wait. Unfortunately for me, I've got my wee boys football training to take before I go on the bus, so there'll be no shenanigans for me, unfortunately.
A sensible man these days. Sinky, Mif had leaned towards it earlier on with some of his comments. A draw is by no means a disaster, right? It would keep us 2 points off the top of the table, but let's be honest, Ange's having none of that. No. I don't think the players are having any of it.
Absolutely not.
I'm not having any of it, are you?
I'm not having any of that either. But interesting tactically, because I believe I don't really watch a lot of them, but they're 4-3-3 as well. But I think that's so. Because
certainly under Gerrard they were.
I think Van Bronckhorst, I think that's the old Dutch way in it. They love a 4-3-3. I think that's the way they set up. So tactically it'll be interesting, because if they set up the normal way, it'll be very much like for like. So if they set up like that, it'll play into your hands, because I believe we can pick them off if they play a 4-3-3.
Yeah. So just on that note, as we're starting to close things out, Sinky, what's your big score prediction for Wednesday?
I'm going to say 3-1.
3-1.
3-1.
I like that.
2-2.
A Desmond?
2-2, yeah.
What's wrong with you?
2-2
What
score
is
drop.
wrong with you?
Score drop.
Score draw.
Score draw.
3-1's around about my thinking, Sinky. I'll just change it to 3-0 though, just to be different. But I think there are thereabouts. I think if we
Clean sheet.
hit form like we can, clean sheet, aye, why not? If we hit form like we can, and I think just with the whole atmosphere and everything around it, I think it could be a really big night for us. So here's hoping. Just as we start to wrap up, as I mentioned, not to forget, we've got a game against Motherwell at Fir Park on Sunday, 1:30 kick-off. And that represents a different type of challenge altogether. We don't really have time to cover that in much detail, if at all, here. But any quick thoughts on that one, Mif? It'll be very different in terms of how we prep.
Beautiful part of the world. Looking forward to it.
Very good. Thank you.
It would be good because we're going to have bodies back, so it'll be interesting to see who comes back. We have Rodgers back, we have Maeda back, we have most of these guys back. So even if we set up, we lose a couple of bodies and injury-wise on Wednesday night, I think we'll be all right for the Sunday against Motherwell. It's a hard place to go, we know that, but I think if we get keep the momentum going, we should have a problem.
Yeah, you could be reintroducing Maeda, Rogic, maybe McGregor, maybe Gucci, and all of a sudden you're looking very strong. Sinky, just as we look to close the show, any final thoughts ahead of a huge week for the club?
Looking forward to it. Long time coming, and I'm looking forward to picking up my winning bet, my 3-1 scoreline.
Mif, what about yourself? Are you excited, nervous, emotional, all of the above?
All of the above. I think we need to have a look for the boxy invisible frogs that are jumping down me Sinky's throat here. Excuse me, folks. I'm just very, very excited. My oldest boy, he's 10, his first Celtic Rangers game, so I'm excited for not just the game itself, but also for taking him, seeing his reaction as well. And here's hoping he's not greeting at the end.
Yeah, he'll be looking forward to seeing his first Celtic victory over Rangers. So after a month of consistency from Ange and this new look Celtic side, we now head into one of the most important fixtures of the season. It's been too long since we took care of a Glasgow derby at Celtic Park, and now's the time to put that right. Jota and Co will be good to go by the time the Wednesday night kick-off comes around, and we'll be back with you for a very special final whistle show on Thursday morning. Thanks to Mif and Sinky for joining me on today's show, and of course our thanks to you for continuing to follow and support the Celtic Exchange. Please continue to do so by liking, subscribing and sharing this episode far and wide with your Celtic network. It really makes a big difference to what we do. But in the meantime, and as always, thanks for tuning in.